Welcome to the Faroes News Report. We're looking at quite a range of sources today covering the latest Faroes developments.
Yes, we'll be reviewing reports on political finances, international relations, some economic news, and significant social discussions from this past week.
Our goal here is simply to relay the facts and arguments presented in the materials we've reviewed.
That's right, we've got several key segments lined up.
Okay, first up, the news headlines we're covering. ALS and AMEG funds in the national budget.
Then the Faroes-Russian fishing dispute, specifically about Russian threat, or as another source put it, Moscow threatens Faroe Islands over fishing restrictions.
Also, the Bakkafrost tunnel statement.
And a big one, Faroes political poll, Fólkaflokkurin surges, Javnaðarflokkurin declines.
Then there's the Faroe Islands government reorganization question.
And finally, for news, a quick note on Forkunnugur í Vestmanna, a unique guest visit.
After the news, we'll move into the opinion and reader segment headlines.
Right, those include pieces on disabled people and the right to sexual health, also framed as Nordic disability rights, healthy sexuality and reproduction.
A reader's letter asking, Helder KVF tar I lagi at gera julder bortur or menningartarnaðum? Basically, does the public broadcaster think it's okay to mock the developmentally disabled?
Then an analysis titled, Faroe Islanders Embrace Far-Right Conspiracy and Islamophobia.
And another reader's letter, Have a politikarnir glömt alt, or Have the politicians forgotten everything?
So quite a lot to get through. Let's start with the news. First, that political finance point about ALS and AMEG funds.
Yeah, what's the story with them in the 2026 national budget proposal?
Well, the core point, according to a statement from Finance Minister Ruth Vang, responding to MP Binary Johannesen, is that the funds themselves, ALS and AM, they're not actually being included in the budget as, like, spendable government money. They remain autonomous foundations.
Okay, so why the headline then? Why the discussion about inclusion?
It's about the payments, the legally required payments into these funds. Under the Constitution, specifically Section 41, any money the government collects legally has to be authorized in the budget.
Ah, right. So even if the money just passes through?
Exactly. They have to include the authority to collect these fees in the budget. It's what the sources call a net zero allocation.
Meaning it goes in, it goes right back out to the foundation.
Precisely. The money doesn't stay in government hands. This whole thing is basically about addressing a long-standing criticism from the parliamentary auditors.
What was their criticism?
That the national accounts were incomplete because these legally mandated flows weren't reflected. So this move is meant to fix that accounting issue.
Got it. So bookkeeping for transparency, not a change in how the funds operate.
That seems to be the gist of it, yeah.
Okay, let's move to the government reorganization. MP Bara Nielsen questioning the Prime Minister, Aksel V. Johannesen.
Yes, about the plan to cut the number of ministries from 9 down to 6, starting December 1st, 2025.
What were Nielsen's main questions?
He focused on a couple of things. What happens to staffing levels in the central administration? And also, are the 3 ministers who will lose their positions facing restrictions?
Restrictions like during an election period, where they can only do essential ongoing work.
Exactly like that. But the really sharp point Nielsen raised was about the cost savings.
Oh.
What about them?
Well, the Prime Minister had previously claimed that expanding the ministries to 9 wouldn't cost extra.
Right, I remember that.
But now, reducing them back to 6 is projected to save 20 million DKK.
Wait, so if reducing saves 20 million, that implies the expansion must have cost 20 million, right?
That's the contradiction Nielsen highlighted. It raises questions about the government's previous financial assurances.
Yeah, that's awkward. Okay, well, that feeds right into the next item, the political poll.
And this is quite something. A recent spyr.fo poll from Port Lurin shows some really dramatic shifts in voter support.
How dramatic are we talking? Very. Fólkaflokkurin, the People's Party, has seen a huge surge. They're up 14 percentage points compared to the last election.
14 points. Wow. What does that put them at?
It puts them at 32.9% support. That projects to them gaining 5 seats, bringing their total to 11. A massive gain.
Okay, so who's losing out if they're surging that much?
The main loser appears to be Javnaðarflokkurin, the Social Democrats. They've dropped significantly.
How much?
Down 11.5 percentage points, landing at just 15% support. That translates to potentially losing 4 seats, dropping from 9 down to 5. It's a major blow.
A huge swing. What about the other parties?
Sambandsflokkurin, the Union Party, saw a small dip, 0.8 points, putting them at 19.2%. That could mean losing 1 seat. Tjóðveldi, the Republic Party, seems stable at 18.4%, holding their 6 seats.
And there's always an uncertainty margin, right?
Yes, the poll noted a margin of plus or minus 3.5%. But here's a crucial timing point.
What's that?
This poll was conducted before the Prime Minister announced the plan to reduce the number of ministries.
Ah, so the potential fallout from that cost contradiction wasn't even factored into these numbers yet.
Correct. The decline for Javnaðarflokkurin was already happening before that specific news broke.
Interesting. Okay, let's shift gears to international relations, the Faroes-Russian fishing dispute.
Yeah, this is getting tense. Russia has officially warned the Faroe Islands about consequences if they restrict Russian fishing vessels.
Who delivered the warning?
It came from Ilya Shestakov, who heads PalsFundamentals, the Russian Federal Fisheries Agency. So it's a formal state communication.
And the concern is mainly about specific companies.
Yes, the sources mention companies like Norrebo and Merman Seafood. These are notable because they've apparently been banned by the EU and Norway over espionage concerns.
But they still have access to Faroes waters.
That's the situation, yes. They have free access currently.
So what did Russia explicitly threaten?
They stated that if the Faroes Parliament brings in more restrictions, then the mutual fishing agreement they've had since 1977 would need to be reviewed.
And what's the likely practical consequence?
Sources suggest the most likely move would be Russia closing its market to Faroes seafood products, a major economic hit.
A trade retaliation, essentially. Okay, next piece of news. Bakkafrost and the Suðuroy Tunnel.
Right. Bakkafrost issued a statement about the ongoing debate on where exactly the potential subsea tunnel to Suðuroy should be routed.
What did they say? Were they lobbying for a route?
No, quite the opposite. They strongly denied having any involvement or preference in the route planning. They emphasized it's a public project and the decision rests with the authorities.
So just clarifying their position.
Pretty much. They did acknowledge they have an interest in good transport links, naturally, especially mentioning the connection to Suðuroy and Skálavík, where they're building a new small station. But they insisted the route itself isn't their call.
Makes sense. And one last news item, a special visitor in Vestmanna.
Yes, the French research vessel, the Tara Polar Station, made a stop there.
What kind of vessel is it?
It belongs to the Terra Ocean Organization. They focus on ocean environments, climate change impacts. It's 26 meters long, weighs 388 tons, quite a unique design.
Where is it coming from?
It was on its way back to France after a trial run up to Svalbard. It can hold about 18 researchers. Apparently, the organization has big plans, 10 long-term expeditions planned right up until 2046.
Okay, interesting. Let's move now to the opinion and reader segments. First, disability rights and sexual health.
This comes from a Nordic Disability Cooperation meeting. Faroes representatives from EGD and the Ministry of Social Affairs were there. The focus was on the right to sexual health and reproduction for people with disabilities.
What were some key takeaways?
A researcher from Norway, Ingrid Thunum, presented some striking data. Apparently, around 67% of disabled people actually choose not to engage in sexual activity rather than get help or facilitation from personal assistance.
67%. That's a lot. It suggests a major barrier.
It certainly does. The meeting concluded there's a real risk of gender-based violence if these issues aren't handled carefully and regulated properly.
How so?
They stressed the need for clear laws that distinguish between a helper, just say participating in daily tasks like moving someone, versus actively facilitating sexual activity. It's about consent and boundaries needing really clear definition in law.
A very complex area. Was anything else mentioned related to welfare?
Yes. It was noted separately that a preventative youth welfare program called Headspace, which focuses on mental health and research, still isn't available in the Faroes.
Even though the need might be similar to neighboring countries.
Exactly. The data suggests the need is comparable, but the service isn't there yet.
Okay. Next, we have a reader's letter criticizing KVF, the public broadcaster.
Yes, from Hilmar E. Gudmundsson. He takes issue with a comment made by a KVF host back on November 5th during coverage of a silent disco.
What was the alleged comment?
According to the letter, the host said something like, "Here is a bunch of people with intellectual disabilities gathered. It looks truly strange. I mean, seriously."
And the letter writer calls this
ableism. He argues the public broadcaster shouldn't allow language that implies people with disabilities look inherently strange or are somehow less than. He frames it as derogatory and unacceptable for KVF.
Right. Now, moving to a different kind of critique and analysis concerning far-right conspiracy theories and Islamophobia.
This is quite an extensive piece from Frelsis Fylking and Arkistana. It critiques two Faroes figures, MP Sjur Skali, and academic Heine E. Skorini for participating in a Danish event.
What was the event?
It was called Fredens Station, organized by the Trykkerfilmselskabet, the Free Press Society. The analysis characterizes this society as a key far-right group in Denmark.
Why? What are they linked to?
The analysis states its founders are tied to anti-immigrant activism and specifically the Euradia conspiracy theory.
Which alleges what?
Basically a conspiracy that elites are intentionally replacing European culture with Muslim culture through mass immigration. The critique argues that attending an event by such a group lends it legitimacy.
Okay, so what did the analysis say about Sjur Skala's contribution on June 12th?
It says Skal discussed Europe's inner enemies. He apparently defined a nation-state very rigidly. One culture, one language, one history, one identity.
Strong words. Did he say more?
Yes, the analysis claims he suggested leaders like Putin and Assad intentionally created refugee crises to, quote, flood Europe, calling it a political crime by elites like Merkel. His solution: forced integration.
Forced integration. Okay. And what about Heine E. Skorini's presentation 2 days later?
He presented his book, focusing on his idea of free speech fundamentalism. The analysis says he claimed groups like the English Defense League, the EDL, emerged because of growing Islamization and the failure of multiculturalism.
Did he use any specific data?
Yes. The analysis points out he cited disputed figures claiming 84% of perpetrators in UK grooming gangs are of Pakistani origin, using this to support his argument.
And what was his proposed solution regarding Muslims, according to the analysis?
It says his solution was basically an ultimatum for integration. He reportedly stated integration would be improved if Muslims rejected their religion entirely, becoming atheists or Christians.
So the analysis presents this as requiring religious abandonment for successful integration.
That's how the critique frames his comments, yes. It's a very pointed analysis based on the reported speeches at that event.
Understood. Finally, let's look at the last opinion piece, a reader's letter about fisheries management.
Right, this one's from Johannesen. He directly challenges Havstafn, the Faroe Marine Research Institute, and particularly its use of ICE's recommendations.
What's his main argument?
He basically says there's never been actual overfishing by the Faroes. He claims recent stock problems are due to natural causes, pointing to a failure in the marine food supply back in the early 1990s.
So he disagrees with the scientific consensus driving the quotas.
Fundamentally, yes.
Yeah.
He argues that because of what he sees as incorrect stock assessments from ICSs, fishing gate restrictions are imposed, tying up vessels.
And he puts a cost on this.
He does. He claims it costs the country hundreds of millions of kroner, enough, he says dramatically, for several subsea tunnels to Suðuroy.
Wow. Does he offer any wider perspective?
Yeah, he claims that wherever ICES recommendations are followed worldwide, catches end up decreasing by 50 to 80%, suggesting the methodology itself is flawed and damaging.
So, a strong counter-narrative to the official fisheries science.
A very strong one, challenging the core advice the government relies on.
Okay, that covers the main points from our sources this week. Quite a mix of internal politics, external pressures, and deep social debates.
It really highlights the complex dynamics at play in the Faroes right now.
That's all we have time for in this Faroes News Report.
Thanks for tuning in to get these updates from the North Atlantic.
Like and subscribe to PalsFundamentals for more content like this. Sources linked below.